This is today's business leaders. Actionable advice from real-world professionals. And now here's your host, Gabe Arnold.
All right, so on today's show, I have Daines-Hutt, and we are going to talk about entrepreneurship and the bullshit of internet marketing and other things probably, but we'll get started with Daniel's story here in just a minute. So welcome to the show, Daniel.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for everyone on Facebook Live taking the time to watch and interact and stuff. I'm not actually in the feed right now because I would be too distracted, like a dog with, two tails.
Yep, it's taken me a while to figure out how to be live, pay attention, and see comments that come in. So I totally get that. And where are you based at, Daniel?
I am in New Zealand right now. I'm just going for my residency right now after about 7 years, but I'm from England originally.
Cool. And when did you first realize that you were an entrepreneur?
I think I've always had like crazy ideas that don't really mesh with 99% of the people out there, But it was actually in New Zealand. I was about to get kicked out of the country because I was too old. Me and my partner, Freya, who's an amazing content marketer, but classic introvert, so she never comes on these things. We were here on a working holiday, and we had applied like 2 or 3 times, and I was too old to apply for a new working holiday. And we're trying to find loopholes. And I think I'd been like listening to Pat Flynn or something like that, or randomly. And I found that I could get an entrepreneurship visa and I could stay in the country, regardless of age. So I watched 2 videos on YouTube about Photoshop, and then I designed a t-shirt. I put it on Facebook, and I woke up the next day to like 5 sales. And then in 5 weeks, we were in like 5 retail stores. And I was like, oh, okay, well, maybe there's something to this. And I got to quit my job and things like that. And then I've been working for myself ever since, which is not as easy as it sounds.
How long ago was that?
I want to say about 4.5 years ago now.
Wow.
So I've been through the ups and downs, and we've evolved like 15 times to what we do and things like that. We had the clothing company. I sold that. People started asking me about marketing because we were selling so well online and in store and things. So I started helping people with that. And then I got into retargeting because a lot of people were not making sales from the traffic. Most sites only make 2%. And like I said at the start, I came from a working class background. So I always wanted to help people, especially like the little guy. That did really well, and I started writing blog posts about that. And then those blog posts ended up being like the top 10 of all time on inbound.org. And we got like 50,000 visitors in a week, and we got like $3 million in client requests and things like that. So I went on that journey for a little while, and then I realized that I probably should be teaching people how to write content as well, because we're getting bigger results than like legit content marketing agencies and things. So now I have two blogs. Basically, one is about retargeting, the other one is about content promotion, ideally, and writing, because they tie together. One gets you more sales from traffic, the other one gets you more traffic without writing all the time, which is a big passion point for me, because a lot of small businesses try content, they freak out because they find they got no time to do it, and they find 5 minutes, and then they're like, where do I even start? And then they try and copy news sites and churn content out all the time, when really you don't have to. All those results were 8 blog posts in 3 years. So you don't need to be writing a lot. I apologize as well. I'm 2 coffees deep, so I may go a bit on tangents.
No, you're awesome. I'm glad you brought that up, and we're going to dive into that, because it's taken me a long, long time to learn quality over quantity. And also I just refused to pay attention to the data for quite a few years of like, here's a post I wrote 4 years ago that outperforms everything I've written in the last 18 months. Right. And that was a huge reason why, you reached out and said, hey, I found your show and I'd like to come on. And I get a decent amount of applications to be on the show these days. But yours was like really to the point about, hey, there's a better way to do content. There's a smarter way to do this stuff. And I mean, I have to be honest, you're probably one of the only people that has come on the show that said, well, I decided to sell some t-shirts and they started selling and like it worked so good and I ended up selling that business. And like that sounds like that iteration happened within probably 2 years or less, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Which
We
is that's
yeah,
ridiculous, man. Because I just sold my first business in my entrepreneurial career a few years
you
ago, and I've been attempting to do this thing for 2 decades.
well, it's like I'm not. I don't know what it is. I think it's because I enjoy it so much that I'm not a big. For me, the end goal isn't the exit, and the cash buyout.
Right.
Because if you can get to the point, you can always put systems in place and people in place that it becomes like a cash earner for years without you even being involved if you really wanted to.
Right.
It was more that I couldn't manage the growth of the two different companies that were happening at the time. And the one t-shirt sold more than any other style in like the area's history. We sold like this one tourist t-shirt sold like 3,000 units or something like that.
Wow.
Compared to most guys will sell like 40 in a summer kind of thing. Yeah. Yeah. And
Only 100 times better than everybody else.
yeah, right. And we even had people like making copies and things like that. I saw duplicates. Some big brands started copying some of our styles that came out the next year and things like that. But I just, it was only me and my partner and our cat Ninja, and he's not that good at doing postage and stuff. So like we were at the post office every other day, and we were at that inflection point where the business just wouldn't grow. I say we sold the business. I gave all the designs and the connections to the printers that we use, and I just did like a cash buyout. Here's all the remaining stock. Here's ownership for a year, actually, of these prints. So I can actually go and print them again now if I want to.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, but it was good. It was like a nice cash injection, and I didn't have to go to the post office.
Yes.
Because you're there for a long time, man.
Yeah, that's basically what I did is like my primary business is just growing like crazy. And this one business is rock solid, but it really needed leadership. So I was able to sell it to a good friend of mine. And they kept me on in a very small percentage in advisory role. So I'm super excited because I get to still see my baby that I've had for 7 years kind of stay in house, not really stay in house, but like I still get to see it and grow and do what I want it to do. So that's kind of cool. But yeah,
You must be pumped.
Yeah, I'm thrilled. It's amazing. We literally just signed papers a couple of days ago, and it's super exciting. So it's going to be a good year for that company that I still get to kind of oversee and like father a little bit. So I'm excited. And my primary business, business marketing engine, we're just expanding into a lot of different areas and doing a lot of cool things, and got about 60 people on the team now, and it's a lot of fun. So I couldn't be happier. We all work virtually like around the world and around the country, like in the US and Canada and Philippines and India and all over, majority here, like North America. But we all of us work from home and we never see each other like actually physically, but we had a virtual Zoom Christmas party last night. So that was kind of fun. we find some ways around it, and we use Workplace, which has been absolutely phenomenal for communication and for culture, which is Facebook's business product. And so it's just a crazy world that, I'm talking to you in the future on the other side of the world. And it's like, I remember as a kid, when I figured out how to use ICQ, like that was such an empowering moment for me. I was like, I can talk to people around the whole world, and it doesn't cost me a dime. And like, I can build relationships and learn new things and learn about other cultures. And like the world instantly became flat and super cool.
I was talking to my girlfriend yesterday, like on the way home. And where I came from as a kid was like a super, super small town, maybe like 300 people kind of thing. It was out in the country as well, so it's all fields and trees. And like I used to read all these books when I was a kid just because there was nothing to do. I even like started oil painting and things like that, something I've never done since. But it was literally like trying to entertain yourself kind of thing. And I remember, when we finally got the internet, and it's just like, it blows your mind like what is possible and what you can do. And
yeah, I think
it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, I think that every time, if you study like civilization and history and stuff, every time that we've created any type of mass communication tool, the world has gotten better. I've done a ton of research on like the history of violence in the world and how the world has become a safer place. And to me, the first inflection point of the dramatic drop in violence was when the printing press became widely available, because then we were able to develop more empathy for other people, because we could read, a story from another person's perspective. We understood. Unfortunately, back in hundreds and hundreds of years ago, men didn't understand that women were people too, like different races, like different parts of the world, different understandings. And so every time that we find a new way to connect person to person and develop empathy, then the world becomes a better place. And technology does that, despite, sensationalized, news and kind of like people that are just trying to make money by making you afraid or making you react poorly. Despite all that, it's just, I love technology. I just love it. It has made my life such a wonderful existence. And I think it just makes the world better and better.
That's it, man. Like I said at the start before the call, we agree on a lot of things, like a lot of higher things. And I don't really want to get into them too much, but yeah, whenever people try and cut off your communication, there's a reason for that. So if people are trying to democratize the internet and things like that, you have to ask why, and it's usually a system of control. So, without getting into that too much, you're spot on where, the more you can communicate, the more you can empathize with people, the quicker you can realize that actually this is BS over here or whatever.
Right.
Whereas if you're only given that filtered view and you're controlled, soon you're up in arms and you don't even understand why, Yeah. Because everyone's pretty awesome. Meet anyone, they're all pretty awesome, but it's like once they get into like a crazy tribe mindset, versus them and stuff. Anyway, it's on my mind, but I don't want to talk about it too much because one, it'll piss me off, and two, it's like,
you can get pissed off here. You can speak your mind, but yeah, we should dig into that in a future episode, because that stuff is like, it's really near to my heart and it's really important. So it's something I've dove into before with people. But there's got to be, I want to go a couple different directions. There's got to be something different about how you think, because you have measured, calculated success based on just a little bit that we've talked, and then I got to know each other. And like most billionaires say, I was lucky, but luck is being prepared and using the right approach and sitting there being ready. So it's pretty interesting to me that you build a little t-shirt company, do 100 times better than everybody, all of your competitors, and then let that go because you need to focus on something else. You wrote 8 blog posts a year, did you say, or over 2 years or something? Like
2 years, yeah. Yeah.
So you write 4 blog posts a year, and how much traffic did you get?
The first post got like 50,000 visitors in the first 2 weeks.
Yeah.
It's not just that as well. Like our traffic can be low, but it's very good at converting. Like one of our blog posts gets an 83% opt-in rate, and the industry standard is like 1.95.
Yeah.
So it converts better, so it's an actual asset. But
yeah.
I'm not that smart. I make a lot of mistakes, and that's how I've learned the smart things, Yeah. Like I've been there, like my first post when I first dived into this took me like 80 hours. And it got 2 shares, and no joke, one was my nan. My nan saw it. Oh, hilarious story, like a bit of an offshoot. But so when you get started, it's really tempting to sometimes build a personal brand. Your face is on the adverts and stuff. My nan would see these, they're like sponsored posts, and she would comment, and she'd be like, "Are you eating okay? You should call your mom," and stuff like that, right? So it's like in the comments under an advert. It's just hilarious. And you'll get trolled, but also now the trolling of the ad changes, like totally. It's not like this is BS. It's more like, your nan's like messaging and stuff. So I just have to leave it,
That's amazing, man. So, yeah, I totally get that. Yes, it's amazing. So let's. Yeah, and I'm glad you pointed that out. But I mean, I want to point out you clearly are brilliant, which it's important. I say that because it's important to accept and acknowledge that, obviously, which I'm sure you know. That's part of the journey too. And I'm also really appreciate your response of, well, yeah, I failed and screwed up a bunch of times, and That's how we get there. Because I always tell people, yeah, I'll beat you because I'll outfail you so much faster than you will. It's like I can test.
Think it's perfection from day one, but it's not.
No, it's not even close. I can put out 10 or 15 or 20 iterations in a month, and most people can't put out an iteration in 2 years.
This is the thing. So when I write, the first draft, like 3,000 words, I can do in maybe 2 hours. But then I'll spend 3 days editing, and I do something like a 15-step editing process because the first draft sucks ass. And then it gets better and it gets better and it gets better. And often I'll even go back into content that I wrote a long time ago and I read it again and I'm like, oh, this sucks, and if that's a good thing, because if you haven't improved, then you wouldn't think that. But the beauty of the internet is I don't need to write something else. I can go and improve that. And now I get a 1% ticking conversion, which means more sales and things down the line and stuff like that,
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely made all the mistakes. A big thing is as well, for me, praise and criticism, I kind of treat the same. You can't listen to too much of either, because otherwise you change why you do things. You see these people who are internet marketers who get really famous and they're no longer doing the direction. It's why I really admire a lot of SaaS companies where you don't even see like the owner. And now, like, they are making a lot more money than I am, and they're affecting a lot more people. But like, you can get like a little bit famous and stuff in this industry, and you go off on tangents. I mean, I'm promoting protein shakes and whatever else, or just being an idiot. So, but I appreciate it. Thank you, man. It's taken a long time to get to this point.
Yeah, no, just that alone, like you said, you'll take days to edit something that you whipped out in a couple hours, and that's noteworthy and important to mention, because most people one and done it, and then they wonder why it's not massively successful. They didn't perfect it, they didn't work on it, they didn't go back over and over and over. And it's like, my best product, I don't spend any time on. I probably spend an hour or two a quarter. It pays all my bills. It lets me invest in everything else I do, and I spent 2.5, 3 years, week in, week out, making it what it is today. And now I don't have to think about it, but I only put in 6,000 hours or whatever. So it's like,
you're just now making like breaking even, and it goes through that. Like it would have been more effective for me to work at Burger King, for the amount of hours that I've put in and things like that. But it is about building those assets and then getting it to work. I will say this, like, a lot of people, if they're getting into content marketing, I've got a blog post on it I can share later or whatever. A lot of it is you don't know what you don't know. And so you get into it emulating the wrong people, and you're trying to churn out a lot of content, which is stressful, and you don't have a team of people, and it doesn't work. Their business model is based on eyeballs, which is why like fear mongering and stuff works, because you get the same people again and again and again. Whereas if you're a business owner, if you have one product or service, it makes no sense to keep churning out content for this guy who's already bought. You need to take this sales message and put it in front of this guy instead, and this guy and this guy and this guy. Stuff like that. So where was I going with this? Come on, Brent. It's one of those days. Oh man, I can't remember where I was going with this. But basically it's like, so the main problems. So it's like you're copying the wrong people, but then you don't understand specific writing habits. So I will never sit down to a blank screen. The way we communicate, the way the brain perceives information and things like that. There's like 3 layers of the brain, and that's why fear mongering works and stuff like that, because it's the first impulsive lizard brain and things. It's only until it gets to the 3rd filter that we actually start to use logic and stuff, but it's tiring. So that's why we go around on autopilot most of the time. If you understand those things, and I've got like a copywriting background I've put time into, you realize you have to formulate content in a certain order. You have to call out to a desire, then you have to build proof. So like my articles, the first 300 words, I'm not even showing you how to do the thing. It's getting you connected so you actually pay attention and do the thing. I can tell you it, but like that's shelf help. You'll just put it on a shelf and never do anything with it. I have to get you enticed. So once you realize that, a lot of stuff is templated. And then you can sit down and you can mark out different things on a template of what you actually want to do. And then I will sit like we're talking now, and I'll just talk to a camera, and I will read out everything, and I'll have a conversation, and then I'll play it back to myself and write out a draft. And that's how I can get a 3,000 word draft that's in the right structure within 2 hours, you know. Already what we've been talking about today is probably like 5,000 words, you know. So These are the things that trip people up, and that's why they don't get into it. And then it's such a slog for them to get something done that when they finally get it done, they're just like, I never even want to talk about that topic ever again, you know? So it's like, you get a draft done, edit it, don't take too much energy out of yourself with it, and then you can put it out there in the world, you know? So it's just like, it's just learning those things. And you don't learn them until you've made those mistakes.
Yeah.
You know?
No, that's awesome. And yeah, you're totally right. It's very, once you've mastered it, once you've put in enough time and you figure out the system, it is formulaic. Like I can walk in and do my thing anywhere. Like I don't have to, you know, it's not hours and hours and hours now. Like what took me almost 3 years to build, I built for a client in like 40 hours.
Right.
Like, and they're thrilled, and it's making them tons of money and stuff. Cause like once you put in the effort and you have the foundation, it's so easy to go through it. But you're right. People are watching the wrong people, which we were talking about before. And they're actually listening to the wrong people, to be more clear. And if you only listen to what people tell you to hear, then you're going to be sold the wrong thing, or you're going to get off track, or you're going to think that, you know, these internet superstars that you think are superstars know what they're talking about. And so many times, I don't know what percentage, a high percentage of the time, they have no idea what they're doing. They have a team that does all that for them.
That's it. There's so many people teaching Facebook ads who've never set one up themselves, or
I know, it's insane.
Or they've been to an event, learned it, set up one ad, and then go and teach someone else how to do it. You know, it's like this damn thing.
It's insanity. And then they say, oh, it's easy because they legitimately believe it's easy. And it's not necessarily easy if you don't understand the principles and you haven't logged the time and you haven't done the work and you don't have all the foundational pieces. And you mentioned somebody, I don't know if it was before we jumped on Facebook or not, but you mentioned Pat Flynn. And he is somebody that I actually asked to speak in an event that I'm going to be holding, and can't make it because of conflicting dates and stuff. But I followed him from like episode 5 of his podcast. And the reason that he's so transformational in our industry is because he doesn't just tell you all that bullshit. He doesn't just say it's easy. He's just totally authentic about, this is the work you need to put in. I spent a ton of time here. Here's the hours I logged. I loved I haven't read one in forever, probably years now. I love his income reports, because he'll be like, here's what I did. Here's what worked. Here's what I didn't work. Here's the time that I put in. And he's such a refreshing guy in the industry. He's actually one of my original influences that I was like, that's who I want to be. Like, that's who I want to follow. Somebody that is not hosing people and, telling you it's all easy. And it's just
you
like,
can tell he actually cares about people.
Yeah.
Even now when he makes more money in a month than majority of people will, he's, he still cares. Like, he probably would never have to work again, even where he is at this point.
Right.
And he still holds true to like this certain values. So I haven't watched anything in ages of his, again, because I think it's kind of like top level when you first get started.
Right.
I actually pitched to go on his podcast. We're waiting to hear back, so that'd be exciting if it does.
Sweet, man. But, awesome.
Yeah, it'd be really cool. Like it's like a success story kind of thing.
Yeah.
He had this recording the other day, and I think he'd been at an event, and his son was with him, and then they missed the flight, and the flight lost their bags as well, and stuff like this. And rather than just being stressed, I think he's in Philadelphia, and he takes his kid to all these famous places and gets a cheesesteak. And because they haven't got clothes, they go to the tourist shop and they get like the Philly t-shirt and the hat and the bag. And then they're just doing like that crazy dance move that people are doing off of like that Fortnite game. Yep. And they turn it into like a 3-minute video of them at like these 80 locations. I mean, Uber between the spots and stuff like that. And it's like, it's got to be hard enough as it is. And he's a dad, and all this crap's happened, and he probably hasn't had any sleep. It's just a good guy, you know? And like, you can tell that even, you know, even when you're exhausted, he's still trying to do right by family and by his audience,
Yeah.
you know? So it's like, you got to be careful who you emulate. Like I've followed people in the past who probably weren't the best for me at the time because of specific ideas and things that they had. You've almost got to pick and choose. Like, okay, this person is great at these ads, but they've got terrible beliefs about work or whatever. So I'm going to take that and leave the rest. And then I'm going to take this, and then I'm going to take this and do that and things like this. But yeah, it does make a huge difference.
Let's dive into how you like the idea to breaking it down to doing it. You've touched on a little bit, but let's take like either one of the ones you've done or pull an idea out of the air and say like, this is how I would tackle it. Because I think this is critically important, because with one piece of content, you can crush it and you don't have to put millions into ads, right? You don't have to do a ton with it if you just do this right.
Well, that's the thing as well. If you can actually put money into ads, sending people to content if you do it correctly. Like right now we're doing it, and for every dollar we spend, we make $22 back.
Jeez.
Right? Which is like unheard of. And at the same time, huge opt-in rates and things. And it means that we can scale out and more people can see it and things like that. Now, I'll be honest, I'm good at ads. I'm still learning how to run a business. So at one point I actually had to stop running ads for 2 months because I spent the money on the wrong things. And when the bills came in, and I was like, shit, you know, like that stuff happens. So I've only just got the ads running again now, because we went for such a long time getting to that point. And then you finally making money. I'm like, yeah, I can pay myself a wage. I can do this. I can hire and stuff. And then bills come in that you're not expecting, like rates bills and things for like $1,000 or whatever. And you just, oh, well, I guess, you know, I've got to pay people and I've got to do this. Anyway, I'm off on a tangent again. We have 4 posts right now. And from those 4 posts, if we hit our traffic goals organically, that'll make $200,000 in the next year from
Wow.
4 blog posts, right? A huge thing that people don't understand, that traffic is a bonus from creating content. Like, that's just a bonus. If Google dies tomorrow and you've got a piece of content that helps convert an audience member into a customer, it's still an asset, you know, because that will happen at some point and someone else will come up and, you know, Facebook will die and all these things. So everyone focuses on specific channels, but in reality, it's all about having those assets, things that are the big levers that are going to get the biggest rewards and things like that. So that's why I love creating content, because I can run paid ads at a profit, but I can also do outreach and SEO. I can have the same conversation again and again and again. So a lot of people get traffic and no sales, and a lot of people get sales and no traffic. And it's because the content that they've got is missing certain elements. They only ever write for SEO, but it doesn't, yeah, you get people to your site, but it doesn't convert. Like I was talking to someone the other day and they get 7 million visitors a month or more, no, 15 million visitors a month to this site. And yet they struggle with opt-ins and sales, you know, and things like that. So I talk to a lot of people about this, and afterwards they're like, thank God I don't have to be writing all the time. You just have to make sure you do certain elements. And it doesn't even matter if that content is already out there. Statistically, someone else has talked about the topic that's out there.
Yes.
You know, you just need to have that and do it well so that it, one, outsources a lot of your time. You don't have to have the same conversations all the time and things like that. 2, you can then build links to it and things like that. So how-to guides do ridiculously well for building trust. If we take a step back, why people buy, it's because they trust you. You have some kind of authority and proof. They feel reciprocity towards you and things like that. You have high value. It's one of the reasons you can sell a higher ticket product and compete in your market when everyone else is like competing on price and trying to be the lowest price. This is how you can stand out, and even if you get less customers and things like that, be better off. So I just like to say all that at the start so people understand you don't need to be creating a lot of content. You just need to have the right content. Case studies do well. White papers, one, help you learn about your industry, but it means a lot of influencers will share, which is a lot of traffic. Ultimate guides do well, but they're a lot of work. Like I've just wrote one that's 30,000 words, which is a book basically. So you don't have to be doing stuff like that all the time. Case studies help with sales. White papers, ultimate guides, interviews and things do well if you're trying to get the attention of influencers and get traffic and things. So you don't have to go all out. It's fine. You can just have one post and do well and promote that, and it brings people in. Let's say you are a surf shop owner and you create a surfboard buyer's guide. Doesn't even matter if the boards are relevant right now in there. Instead, you need to teach people what each board does and why, like how it affects which wave that you live, so that you can understand. Because a lot of people will say, okay, well, this is a cheaper one, or this one looks cooler. Actually, it's based on the conditions of where you live and how often you're going to surf. If you're only going to use it for 3 weeks over the summer, then you don't need the best one and stuff like that. And if you empower people with that, it makes it really easy to then sell to them, get opt-ins and things. But then competitors and blogs and influencers will also share it because it's a value, And if you own a surf shop, you've had that same conversation to every person who comes in to buy a board anyway. So just put it on a piece of paper, put it on your website. It's so much easier. You're going to sell stuff like that. Again, I apologize. I'm 2 coffees deep, so I'll go on tangents.
Oh, you're good.
But the best content online, we actually did some research in this and we looked at people who are much smarter than me. So like Jonah Berger, who wrote Contagious, which is about viral content. We looked at BuzzSumo, who did a research of over like 1 million websites and what gets links and traffic and stuff like that. And we put all this together and we found out there was an overlap, and there actually came to be 9 elements. So again, content that people trust, content that builds authority, content that builds reciprocity, i.e. I want to pay you back and stuff. When we broke that down, it's like 1,000 to 3,000 words. Now you seem trustworthy because you've gone into depth. A lot of images, believe it or not, because it's not just, you have to show them and you have to provide context. So that also builds a lot of trust and authority. Adding in proof segments as well. This is why you should care. I wasn't always that good at this. I had to make these mistakes. This is why. Same as how Pat Flynn connects. All that kind of stuff. So I've got an article that I'll share. Can't remember the URL. But it actually shows you how to go into an old post and tick those boxes. Okay, well, if you don't have this, do this. If you don't have this, do this. We actually took an article off a site that I don't own, but I really enjoy, and I rewrote it to meet those elements, and you can see them side by side, and it's a much more improved post. I don't want to shit on the original author kind of thing, but you can just see, like, even just by rearranging the flow and the white space of how the post works. So it's not difficult. There's certain writing hacks to get a piece of content. There's certain editing hacks and boxes to tick. Once you've got that, then you can promote it. You can go out. It's so easy to do outreach when you say, hey, like an article right now, that one we wrote is trending to be one of the top articles of the year on Growth Hackers. Like most articles get 12, 14 upvotes. This one's got 98, So it's real easy then to reach out to an influencer and say, hey, I wrote this post. It's trending to be this. Do you want to check it out? And they will. And when they see it and it is legitimately good as well, they're going to share it. They're going to link to it without even asking to. You can run paid traffic to it. You can put it on social curation sites and things like that. Now, if you want to, I can talk about like how to run paid ads and things. It does take a little bit of time. It's not that difficult. Like we've covered a few things, but it's up to you. I honestly don't mind like where we go with this.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I think we should tackle that in another show because I don't want to, be too divergent where we're throwing too much at once. Because as I'm sure you know, right? Yeah, the way the mind works, we can only absorb certain chunks and certain amounts. But I think that it's just important to like continue to highlight that you've done the work and you've done the research and you've figured out what's working, what's not working. And too many times, in entrepreneurship, especially in internet entrepreneurship, for 2 reasons we fall into the trap. of, oh, this will be easy because we want it to be easy. So we tell ourselves and we create confirmation bias around whatever is easy. Like, oh, well, Pat Flynn did it, so it must be easy. Like, even though that's not Pat's message. So we want to believe what we want to believe. And then it doesn't, the one downside I feel of technology is it doesn't help us. Sometimes it doesn't help reinforce our work ethic because we can click 3 times and get something. And that's kind of a phenomenon that didn't exist pre-technology in a lot of senses, right?
It actually changes how our brain functions as well. So like dopamine hits and things, so that we actually focus less and stuff like that. So you have my email now. Mm-hmm. Only about 12 people have my email account because I don't want to be distracted. My phone is off and it's in a bag and I won't turn it on until 6 o'clock tonight. And even then, only 5 people have my phone number. But it's all things that I had to learn to make mistakes on because I was getting phone calls at 4 a.m. and things like that. But yeah, it literally changes how your brain chemistry works and how you respond and how you interact. You can use it to help you or it can control you and things like that. You know? But yeah, you're spot on. We do try and find what's easy. And again, that's because of how our brain works. We're going with that lizard brain and it's just trying to find what is the easiest option so that I can save brain power, because if I step out in front of a car, I need to be able to move. I don't want to be so fatigued that I can't even calculate distance and speed and things.
Right. It's survivalism. It's not a bad thing. It's just something we have to be consciously aware of. And you're totally right. It's like, I've surveyed a lot of entrepreneurs over the years, and a huge majority, like I don't have it completely formulated statistically yet, but a huge majority, well over 90% in my estimation, have never made more than $40,000 a year.
Yeah.
And it's because tons of distractions, tons of bad advice, tons of misguided effort. And then you spend a year doing all the wrong things. Like you said, putting out too much content. I mean, imagine that. Or whatever, like just all these misguided directions. And then you burn out and you're like, I just can't do this because there's no actual result. There may be these little dopamine hits for the wrong behavior, let's say, but end of the day, you're not paying the bills.
That's it. And, okay, so this is contrary because I'm on here and I should be pitching things, but I will say, like if you want to take away like 3 takeaways from this call, you don't have to write that often. So that's great. It's just about learning where the levers are. The third thing, we're coming to the end of the year. So you probably might even be listening to this after January or whatever. If so, like the most important thing I did is I just cut off all communication at one point and I just took a step back. I burnt out and everything, and it was really bad. I put on like 90 pounds at the time, 4 Red Bulls a day, blah, blah, blah.
Wow.
Take a step back and like rest, because your brain cannot function exhausted. It cannot do what it's supposed to do. And then just start asking yourself those questions, the right questions, because when you are exhausted, you'll chase every shiny object and you'll go 2 meters in this direction and then 2 meters in that and then 2 meters in that, and you're still in the same position. And that's why you don't end up going where you want to go. You put in the effort, you put in the energy, but you're not actually going in any particular direction. Step back and ask those questions like, what do I actually want from this? What do I actually want to achieve? Where do I want to be? And they're the same questions that work with your content as well, because if you want traffic, it's going to happen, but it's pointless putting that content if it's not going to work for you. So like, what do I want? I want to help people who read it, so I've got to put in the effort, and then I want to convert and I want to make sales. Well, guess what? By doing the first part, that's going to work. But it's the same questions you should ask yourself, like as you're getting, we kind of do it in 12-week periods. We do like a big task for 12 weeks, and then we don't do anything else. Stuff on the board up there.
Mm-hmm.
Stuff on the right is what I'm working on right now. Stuff on the left are long-term goals. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. First thing is, so My Content is a new site. So my first goal is get it to 2,500 visitors a month. I'm not doing anything else but that. After it, it's like get X amount of conversion to sale, then it's the next traffic margin, and it's the next. We've done that before with other sites, but I know I can't get accurate data until I've got consistent traffic each month. It's
Yeah.
all very well converting from paid ads, but I need to know how organic works and things like that. And it's having that singular focus. So right now as well, I'm doing podcasts. I'm doing like 30 or so podcasts so I can go out and I can talk to people about this massive article that I wrote. Because it's pointless me putting something out there in the world if I wrote a 30,000 word article, I'm not promoting it.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like it's having those singular focus will make the biggest difference. There's a great book, if you do read this at Christmas or whenever, called Deep Work by Cal Newport, who's I want to say he's a neuroscientist. He talks about like actually getting shit done, you know, cutting out distraction and stuff like that. And once you can do it, it'll blow your mind. You know?
Yeah. I just finished reading Essentialism. I forget the author's name right now, but
Keown. I want to say Michael Keown or something.
yeah, maybe Greg, something, I don't remember, but it was same message, like, you know, how to make more, do more, be more effective is cut everything out, like actually start focusing in. And that is something that I've ignored or refused to learn or didn't understand for many years. And just in 2018, it's been a huge year because one of my longest mentors and business coaches, beginning of the year, he's like, I want, the thing I feel like I need to say to you is like, slow down to move faster. And that's exactly how it worked. And it's just crazy it's crazy how conditioned we can get to get busy. And the busier you get, the worse you're going to do. It's like, it's all that happens.
I've done it before where I'm working like 14-hour days and I'll finally just break and I'll take 2 days off and sleep. I'll come back and in 2 hours, I will get the work done that I spent 3 days trying to get done. You know, people BS all this stuff. I was listening to a previous show of yours where you're saying you're up till 4 and you get up again at 6. When you're first starting out, sometimes there's no choice in the matter. You've got to get shit done and you got to get paid. And if you want to advance, like especially if you're doing a side hustle now, you got to put in those hours because there's only so many hours. If you want to go from what you're doing to the next thing, sometimes you have to do that.
Right.
The mistake is thinking that it stays like that. You know, like I finish at 3 o'clock now. 1, because it gets super hot in here and I can't get anything done. 2, the surf is amazing at this time of year, so I might as well be out in the water and cool down.
Right.
But it's also, by doing that, it forces me to be more effective during those early hours, you know? And I have to force myself. I leave my computer at work. I finish at a certain time, I take weekends off, and I make sure that I recharge those specific things. Because if you do that, you can be more effective and you can do less. And again, you have to make those mistakes sometimes to understand this. And work backwards from there.
Yeah. And I'm glad you phrased it that way with like early on. Absolutely. Log the hours, learn the craft, do the thing, do whatever. That will get you to maybe level 1, but you cannot get to level 10 by doing the same thing you did at level 1. And like, we all know that, but then we don't actually do it. It's like, and in the book I was just mentioning, Essentialism, it really stood out to me and really inspired me. It said that Jeff Bezos, the CEO, founder of Amazon, he takes 2 hours off in the middle of every single day to do nothing. And it's like, and it's a great reminder to me because I had some of the most significant years in my business 3 or 4 years ago when I refused to work Fridays. I was like, I'm only going to work 4 days a week because I had other stuff going on and like schedule stuff with my son and like things like that. And it was, and I had a phenomenal year. And it's like, we let ourselves slip into this just weak mindset, honestly, of like, oh, if I do more, it'll work out. But that's scientifically not true. It's like, it's practically not true. And it's important, especially in our busy go world. And when we have people lying to us on the internet a lot about, hustle more, 10X, do all that dumb shit, that's going to do it for you. That will absolutely not do it for you. It'll actually burn you out and hurt you. And it's like,
and the most exhausted people as well that you'll see. And they have $500 million businesses, and yet they're still, quality of life after a certain point doesn't change or improve. You have a bigger house, bigger car, things like that, but which is fine, and if that's what you want to do, but you have to fix those things first, because if you're not getting enough sleep and if you're not getting time to see family and things, then you have a job. You're not the business owner. You are stuck doing these different things, right? Yep. And it's hard, and you have to take a step back. I'm just reading a really good book by a guy with a similar name to me, David Heinmeier Hansen, the guy from Basecamp, Jason Fried.
Oh yeah.
They've just done a book called It Doesn't Have to Be Crazy at Work. And it's like how they run their business. They also wrote Remote and Rework. Such great books as well, because they say all these different things. In the summer, they only work 4 days a week. And they don't work more hours during those days. Like there's an office next door to me, and they do a 4-day week, but they work 13 hours per day for those 4 days. And so I'm like, you're not getting shit done in that time. Anyway, what they actually do is they say, okay, well, during the summer, people want time off, so we do smaller projects. And we keep our big projects for the winter, and we just organize like that. Their biggest thing is trying to make it a peaceful, calm environment so that the people can get the work done. Because if you let that happen, it's far more effective, you know. There's another guy, James Schramko, who talks about this. He's got a really good book called Work Less, Make More, which I think is like $4 and something on Kindle. He only works 4 days a week, and he surfs every single day. I mean, it's like he works from 12 to 4 or something like that, because he's surfing in between, he's surfing after, you know. And the guy's killing it. He says he hasn't done less than $100,000 a month in the last like 8 years. Jeez. Something ridiculous. Yeah, he can have like Lamborghinis and things. He just doesn't, he's not interested.
Right.
Know? A big goal for me moving forward is I want to actually get into the SaaS space. Mm-hmm. We understand marketing. My girlfriend actually, my partner, she works for a SaaS company as her day job. She's taken them from 30,000 visitors a month to 125,000 in the last 9 months, you know? So we have these skill sets. I don't know anything about code or anything like that, but it's like you get to the point where in the next 3 years, I can have enough money to retire on, but then what am I going to do? You know, what I can do is I can work shorter weeks on projects that are interesting and impactful to the things that matter to me. And then I can take time off. And sometimes it's so scary as a business owner to actually not be critical of yourself and actually take time away. You think that it's time wasted, but it's actually more beneficial. A 20-minute nap, you know, like a 5-minute meditation, literally reboots your brain. The computer's running slow. You've got too many tabs open. Can you imagine? Like, of course you're not getting work done. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. No, all totally right, and excellent advice. So we will definitely continue to have some conversations together, Daniel. This has been fantastic. And to start with, everybody can go check out ampmycontent.com and see just kind of all of what Daniel's building up there, and his wisdom and you know, the value that he's adding to the world. I highly encourage you guys to do that. And is there anywhere else that people should find you, or that you'd like to send them?
Not really. I've done a few of these now, and people keep asking for my Twitter handle. It's at Inbound Ascend, but you're only going to see pictures of my cat and what music I'm listening to today while I'm writing and stuff. That's it. You know, or I might share a post that I wrote months ago, again, for people who missed it. I'm really not like the usual business kind of guy. I'm way more laid back nowadays anyway. But ampmycontent.com, if you go on there, you'll see we have 4 posts right now. We have one which is our manifesto, so people will see the reasoning and the math behind why they can actually step back and write less often. We have one which teaches you how to take those old pieces of content and improve them, because that makes total sense. It's already getting traffic. Like you said, the one you wrote that like 4 years ago. Right. To improve that, it's going to get more traffic and more options. We teach you a method to get up to, well, around 15% opt-in rate is about average that we've seen students and stuff do. I had this one guy who's like, he's in B2C enterprise, B2B, and he would get like 5 leads after a couple of weeks of writing a post. He got 15 in the first half an hour of like publishing when he changed like the structure and stuff, right? So all that's on there. And then we have like this massive, massive guide that is how to actually promote at a profit those ads, and it literally walks you through every step. Like, it's big stuff, but go read those if you want. You don't have to. Take time off, depends what you want to do, but all that stuff is there. But it's at ampmycontent.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Daniel. This has been a blast, and we will definitely have you back soon, okay?
Thanks for having me, and thanks for listening, everyone on the live.
You've been listening to Today's Business Leaders with Gabe Arnold. Remember to subscribe on iTunes. For more information, visit todaysbusinessleaders.com.